My name is Carolyn, and I talk to the spirit world. Travel with me to a dimension filled with love, light, and joyful surprises. Welcome to Carolyn's Psychic Playroom.
Hi everybody, Carolyn Wilkins here. I am thrilled and honored to invite you to yet another edition of my cable TV show, Carolyn's Psychic Playroom. We're here on Cambridge Cable TV every 2 weeks, and I would love it if we become a constant in the world of change that is the many things that are going on around us right at the moment. I am delighted to welcome you here. Here at the Psychic Playroom, we discuss the intersection of creativity and spirituality. And I always have guests for you who are working in that fascinating nexus of those two powerful forces. And this week's guest is an amazingly talented woman. I'm going to tell you more about her in a minute, but her name is Reverend Rita Berkowitz. She is a medium, an ordained reverend in the Spiritualist Church, but she's also a professional artist. She's an author. She's written several books, including a major how-to book on mediumship. And she's just altogether a remarkable lady that I had the privilege to interview. And I'm going to share that interview with you a little bit later on in the segment. But before we get started, I always like to do either a reading for someone from the audience or a reading for the collective. And since times have been so incredibly turbulent of late, I thought it might be helpful if I were to offer a bit of a reading, not in terms of something predictive, but something more in terms of guidance to help us make sure that we bring our highest and best to the table, and no matter what the outcome of outside events, external events, we remain resolute, strong, creative, and spiritual. So, to kind of inspire me to do this reading, I thought I would share a sculpture with you. I hope you can see this here. This sculpture was made by a very well-known, at the time, African-American woman who was a sculptor and artist. Her name Augusta Savage, and she created this piece for the 1939 World's Fair in New York City. And I inherited this. It's a bronze copy. Obviously, it's not the real thing. It's a bronze copy that I inherited from my grandmother. And it's called Lift Every Voice and Sing. And you can see African Americans, and they're held in the hands of God in the shape of a harp as they sing. This piece has always inspired me, reminds me of my ancestors, and we all have ancestors, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't even be here. So today I'm being guided. Actually, we are in the month of November. I do want to speak about the ancestors in this time as the days get shorter and we begin to kind of go inward a little bit. This is a great time both to reconnect with your own creative spirit and with your ancestors. And by ancestors, I mean those in the spirit world who surround you, both biological ancestors and also what they sometimes call in the Spiritualist Church your guides and inspirers, those who are around you, helping you and inspiring you. I've been feeling the presence of the ancestors quite a bit lately, and I'm being called to read for you from this lovely little deck that I have. This is a deck of Andinkara symbols. Andinkara are symbols that come from Ghana, sacred symbols, and each symbol is a visual, but it's also associated with a particular character trait or quality. So I'm going to ask these cards in light of what I was just saying about the importance of connection to the ancestors and to our own creative spirit, regardless of external events. I'm going to ask what the Andinkara cards have to say to us today on this topic. So I'm shuffling the cards, and I'll shuffle them one more time. What would you like us to know, beautiful ancestors, that can help us stay on track, on point with our creative endeavors and with our spiritual endeavors in this challenging time? So now I'm sort of swirling the cards around a little bit and pulling. And the one that came up, this is peace. And I will say, what with all of the drama that has been going on, what with the election and etc., peace has been very hard to come by. I think that for many of us, it's been a struggle to stay in our inner peace and not get drawn into conflict or arguments or worry or anxiety or these many other things that can take us out of a true connection to our spiritual center. So the ancestors are offering us peace, and I will say the best way to get there is to start with yourself and with the breath. So when you feel yourself getting a little bit roiled up, when you feel yourself getting a little bit agitated, things get under your skin, as definitely can happen about now, this is a great time to just stop, take a pause, and take 3 deep breaths. 3 deep breaths, and allow yourself just to recall the truth of who you are. We are each magical sparks of divine light. We have so much more to give than the results of any election or any political argument or any other thing. We are so much more than that. And now is the time to connect with that inner peace, which actually will in turn put us in harmony with the greater outer peace that we're all seeking. So, with that little message, I'm going to roll right into my interview segment for today. And as I say, my guest is the Reverend Rita Berkowitz. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. Check it out. Hi, everybody. Carolyn Wilkins here, and welcome to the interview segment of Carolyn's Psychic Playroom. And I am honored to have as my guest today the very amazing and talented Reverend Rita Berkowitz. And she is a spiritualist minister. She is an artist. She is a wise woman, much respected in the world of mediums. And without further ado, I'm going to allow her to kind of greet you a little bit. Say hello to Carolyn's Psychic Playroom, please.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. And hello to the audience. And I'm thrilled that you're here. And hopefully we can share some tips about how you can get started and what your journey is like and where to take it.
That is perfect. So, speaking of journeys, I'm going to start all the way at the beginning and ask if you could share a little bit about how it was that you got started in your journey of becoming a spiritualist minister. First of all, uh, did you always know that you were a medium and psychic, or did this come later on in your life, or what was that opening like?
Carolyn, one of the things that I love is I didn't know other people weren't. I didn't know there was anything unusual about what I did. I just thought this is the way people are. My mother always accused me that I was too sensitive, which is the first question I ask my students. How many of you were accused of being too sensitive? And we know that the definition of a medium is somebody who's so sensitive they can feel the vibrations from both sides of life. So I started my path in this because a friend of mine said to me, you always know things. And this was way back in the early 1980s. So, I've been doing this for a long time. And she was involved with somebody who ran one of the first New Age stores in Chicago. And she said to me, he gave me a test. And the test was, she was at her house in Boston. I was at my house at that time in Norwell. And she said, we're going to meditate at the same time. And you're going to tell me what you see about me. And so after the designated time, I called her and I said, okay, I saw you. You were wearing this particular outfit. You were sitting in this particular position on your couch, and there was a glow around you while you were meditating. And she said, I am wearing that outfit. This is before FaceTime, so I couldn't see it. But she said that's the exact outfit I was wearing. She said she was sitting in the exact position on the couch. And so that was really she was my first push. She kept pushing me. She said, you've got a talent, you've got to use it. And I would say, leave me alone. I'm not interested. I'm an artist. That's what I want to do. And she said, you've got this. And she kept buying me books and she kept taking me to different people to see. And so it mushroomed. And it went on from there. As far as doing the spirit art, which I'm also a spirit artist, as far as doing the spirit art, there was a woman in the first church that I went to, which was the Swampscott Church of Spiritualism. And she said to me, come see this woman named Coral Poge, who was a spirit artist from England. I said, this is hokey. I'm not interested in doing this at all. And she I really was the reluctant part. And she said to me, just come and see it. And so I did. And I said, oh, okay, whatever. And then there was a woman from the church, Barbara Farewell, who kept saying, you're going to be a spirit artist. And she kept demanding this. So I finally agreed to try it, really to get her to stop asking me so much. And when I did that, there were 3 drawings that came out. First was a Native American guide, which to me is no great proof because we don't know necessarily who our guides are. Yes. Then I drew a middle-aged man, and then I drew an adolescent boy. And the man that I drew the adolescent boy for took a photo out of his wallet, laid it next to the drawing, and said, I can't thank you enough. My son passed in a car accident, and this is him.
Wow.
And I will tell you, I was scared to death because I knew my life was about to change. Because when you see that happen, you can't say no anymore.
No,
and I was very
cannot.
big on saying no.
Yes.
And so I saw it happen, and it was overwhelming to me. And then one thing led to another, and everything fell into place. I did not ask for any of this. I was an artist.
Amazing how when you're on your path, things just kind of open up. And
Absolutely.
even as in your case, when you're almost actively resisting because
Oh,
it
I was
just feels
resisting.
like too weird and going against the grain of everything you've been taught and the idea that you had of what your life was going to be. But when it's time, Spirit just kind of pushes you forward and then opens the doors for you to move ahead. You know, it's
I would have to say
miraculous.
I was dragged, not pushed. I
Yes,
was dragged
yes,
because
I
it
hear
was
that.
not what I planned for my life.
So tell
And
me a bit about your artist. You were more thinking that you would be an artist, like as in just a professional
I was
artist?
teaching college level art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was, I had a studio in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
in the South End in the 80s. So you can
Nice.
imagine, you know, it was a pretty wild time there.
Yes,
So
of
I never
course.
thought I was going to become a quote unquote spiritual person.
Yes.
I thought I was going to party my way through, through paintings and shows and all these wonderful things that we were doing in the early 80s,
Oh,
before things got weird. And it was wonderful, and I was having a great time. And my kids would come with me to openings,
mm,
um, and it was, I was, opening them up to that, and I thought this is wonderful, And then all of a sudden, boom! In 1984, everything changed.
wow. That is awesome. So now you've been on this journey since 1984, and obviously you've done a lot of work. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of art that you're doing now? I know you mentioned spirit art, which, at least in my mind, and you can correct me if this is wrong, but this is almost art as mediumship, meaning that
Right.
you are bringing through the spirit of a deceased
Yeah.
loved one in the form of a picture. But
Right.
you also do more what I guess I would call traditional art, as in
Fine
painting,
arts. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you've
That's
done.
what that was my plan originally, and now I'm doing it again. So when
Mhm.
I retired from being the pastor of the Quincy Church, I
Yes.
then started to paint again. I then and again was guided to, somebody said there's a studio. It ended up costing $20 more a month than my storage unit where all my big paintings were stored. And so I said, well, this is a no-brainer. And so I got very involved with the arts community in Massachusetts, um, and I am painting waterfalls, because waterfalls to me right now is an expression of what life is. Sometimes it
Mm,
just flows easily. Sometimes you're going over bumps and curves and you're turned in all different directions. So,
mm.
and visually, waterfalls are magnificent. So I'm
Yeah.
working on a series of waterfalls, have been for the last 2 years.
Wow. Because I know that you periodically put some work up on Facebook, and I've
Yeah,
really
yeah,
enjoyed looking at them. And I have to say, water is very important to me. And like you, I love waterfalls, and there's such a wonderful meditative aspect both to the sound
absolutely.
and to the flowing of them, and that very, very powerful. So, if people are interested, I assume that your work is available for sale for those who are interested in purchasing one of these pieces. And so, just very quickly, where can they find your work? If there, do you have any? I guess nowadays with the virus and everything, we
With the
don't
virus, there are
have
no shows happening.
art
Actually, there are
shows.
a couple of shows happening. There
Mm.
is one that I just brought paintings over to at the South Shore Conservatory of Music.
Oh,
And
oh.
so I have 3 paintings hanging in that show.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, you can't go into galleries and have big openings and so on.
Yeah.
I do have a website, thespiritartist.com.
Okay.
And so it's thespiritartist.com.
Good.
And so people can see my work on that, contact me from there. And
Yes.
then I can arrange if they are, or give them any information and let them know if they're interested in purchasing.
Nice. So, as an artist and a spiritual person, is there a particular, before you begin a painting, is there a certain either ritual or meditation or thing that you do? Do you feel, I'm asking kind of a multi-part question here, but I know you're with me. Do you feel actually artists working through you when you're doing your water? I know they're working through you when you're bringing through straight up kind of mediumship art, but I'm talking more about just your visual, just art. Do you feel the presence of spirit working through you? And are there things that you do to kind of call that forward?
Well, I do ask my master artists, quote unquote, to be with me.
Yes.
I do, if I'm stuck on a painting, I will stop, I will meditate. And what will happen is I will see the finished painting in my mind. But if I may, I'm going to share a story with you.
Great.
That is absolutely wonderful. I was painting my painting guide. And this was way back in 91. And somebody came into my studio and said, "Who is this?" And I kept saying, "Well, it's my painting guide." And he asked me, "Well, what's his name?" And I kept going, "Fra, oh, it sounds like that liqueur, fra." And I couldn't get the name. I'm a very clairvoyant person, but clairaudience I still work on. So I finally said, "It sounds like that liqueur, Frangelico," and then it's not that exactly. And about 3 weeks later, I heard my father, who's in spirit, say, "Look it up," which he always said to me when I was a kid. And so I went downstairs to my Encyclopedia Britannica, because there was no Google then. And I looked it up, and everything I had said about the man, that he lived late 1300s, early 1400s, that he was a painter, that he was a monk, and went on. And it ended up being Fra Angelico.
I'm thinking that, yes.
So I was working at that point at the Worcester Art Museum. So I went into their library, and as an instructor there, I could touch the books, the old books. I found a book that was written in the 1800s about him. Yes. And as I opened the book, and you know how it works with spirit, I open the book and I see a critique of his work. Master of hands and faces, too interested in telling the story, not enough painterly quality. A few months before, I had a show in the Chapel Gallery in Newton, and the critique of the show that was written in the newspaper, "Master of hands and faces, too interested in telling the story, not enough painterly quality." And I almost threw the book up in the air, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I Xeroxed it. Again, those are those days. I Xeroxed the article and, kept that for quite a while, because that is such a testament to that, in fact, spirit is working with us.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing story.
And so when we are working, when we're doing our work, if we ask, even if you don't know who your guides are, because at that point I didn't know, ask them to be with me. And then I did a wonderful meditation with Mavis Patilla. Do you know Mavis?
I'm one of her many, many students. Yeah.
Okay. So I did a wonderful meditation with her, which she calls Room with a View.
I know that one.
Okay. So I met my guide.
Nice.
And he walked in to the room where I was, and there was a big table and a big bowl of fruit. And he picked up a pear that was very juicy, and I could actually feel the juice coming from the corner of his mouth.
Nice.
And he kept telling me to slow down. I'm not a patient woman, but he kept telling me to slow down and be patient. And And I said to him at the time, I paint with much larger brushes than you do. And he said to me, yes, I know. And
that's cute.
Because he must have worked with a double O brush all the time, because if you look at his actual paintings, they're very finely detailed, and my paintings are looser and freer and so on. So I know that he is one of my painting guides. I do feel like I have others also, but I just love the fact that that got proven to me so beautifully and so quickly.
That is so powerful. So that leads me on to ask, on behalf of those who are listening, who might be hoping to inspire their own creativity a little bit. And obviously, just by the very nature of this podcast, which is about the connection between spirituality and art, we believe that a connection to spirituality will help enhance the art. But
Absolutely.
Do you have maybe a small suggestion for someone who's just at the beginning of their journey and would like to sort of move their own creativity a little bit further along?
Okay, firstly, your attitude has to be positive. Because if you go up to the easel and you say, I'll never be able to do this, that is exactly what will happen. So I always tell students of mine, you can do this. You can do this. When I was teaching college, I used to occasionally put my hand on somebody's back and just sort of send some energy through them and say, there's a wild man living inside of you. Let him out, let him paint, Don't try to take an 18 by 24 pad and draw a little something in the middle. Let it, let yourself be free. Definitely meditation. And when you meditate, meditating before you're starting to paint or draw or sculpt or whatever your media is, or compose music, whatever you're doing, if you meditate first and you ask your guides to be with you, they will be.
Yes.
And they're very cooperative, which is the thing that we're used to being said no to so many times, but your guides want to work with you.
Nice.
And they're very happy to work with you.
Yeah.
So if you only ask them, it will be wonderful.
Oh, that's great advice. That is fabulous. So once again, how can people find, do you also offer, we haven't actually gotten even to your ministry work, and I see we're running out of time, so we're not going to go deep into it, but I know that although you are no longer the pastor at the Quincy Church, you are still a minister, meaning that people can come to you for counseling and guidance and that type of thing. That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that and if they want to contact me, many people will find me on Facebook. I have people asking me questions from all over the world. This is happening in my life, or what can I do? Or so it's very definitely that if somebody does need to contact me, they can. I am teaching still. So
where are you teaching?
I teach at the Schools of Wisdom at Women of Wisdom in Easton.
Okay.
And so I am teaching a mediumship class and an advanced medium class, both starting in October.
Oh, that's
so if they go on the Women of Wisdom website, they can see that. I'm going to be doing a workshop online through the church called the precognitive message. How do we get those messages that come to us before we even know who they're going to go to?
Yes.
Or when you're going to do a demonstration and you have somebody sitting next to you in the car, that's a spirit, and they start chatting with you. And you go, okay, are you going to be here? And that in itself has wonderful stories about the okay, I'm seeing you here. is your owner going to be at the demonstration, or are you just hanging out with me and want to show yourself to me? Or there are sometimes they'll come to you in a dream, or they'll come to you in your sleep. And can you make this happen on your own without having it just happen? Can you call in the people for a precognitive message? So that's going to be that workshop, and I don't have the date. It is on October, but I don't have the date with me right now. I could look it up.
And that would be through Women of Wisdom as well?
No, that one's through the church. So it's the First Spiritualist Church of Quincy.
So if you go to that website, it will be there.
Yeah, they usually post things on Facebook.
Okay.
So, and I'm doing their service this Sunday. So if you would like to see a wonderful service, I'm known to be fairly good at this. So if you would like to see a wonderful service this Sunday, I will be doing this service.
Well, that is fabulous. I have to say the time has just zipped by for this interview, and I feel that we've only just scratched the surface, but we have at least given the listeners and viewers a sense of your beautiful work. And so once again, this is the amazing Rita Berkowitz, and you can find her at thespiritartist.com, right? Yes. And she also can be found, her teaching, through Women of Wisdom, which is a store where they have all kinds of great events and so forth. You can Google them and find out.
And I also have a couple of books that have been out. I wrote The Complete Idiot's Guide to Communicating with Spirits.
The Complete Idiot's Guide. I love it.
We all know the Idiot's Guide books, the orange and blue ones that you see all over the place. I wrote the one for communicating with spirits, and I also Empowering Your Life with Angels.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Well, I am just so grateful that you were able to take time to come join us on the Psychic Playroom. And so I'm going to say goodbye for now, but thank you so much for this amazing interview. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed that interview and found some inspiration there. Reverend Rita is an amazing lady, as you have seen, with so much of value to offer. If you would like to get in touch with her, she does counseling, she does advising, she has wonderful artwork, and I'm going to put her information on the screen here so that you can reach out and get in touch just to talk or to take a deeper look at her work. And meanwhile, I'm going to say once again, this is a beautiful time to be in touch with your own inner wisdom, your own inner peace, and your own inner power. This is what the ancestors are trying to bring us and to remind us that we are so much more than we know. So on that note, I'm going to once again hold up my little heirloom, lift every voice and sing. I hope that your heart will be singing today. I know that mine is. It's been my great pleasure to connect with you today, and I will see you in the next episode. Oh, by the way, and if you would like an individual reading on the Psychic Playroom, as today I just kind of did more collective readings because it feels like that is what is being called for at this time. But if you would like a more personal reading and you would like to share it on the Psychic Playroom, please write to me at psychicplayroom@gmail.com. Okay, that's it. Have a wonderful, wonderful couple of weeks, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.
Thoughts are things with the energy to make life better for you and for me. Touch the light. dam dam dam